Babe Ruth. How did a hot dog-loving lefty make a whole sport retire an era just by stepping in the box? Start with 1927. The Yankees are steamrolling teams, stacking runs like it's a side hobby, and Babe Ruth is chasing a number that sounds made up. He lives like a carnival headliner, but every day the box score keeps adding up. The stadium buzz isn't about if he'll homer, but how far the ball goes when he does. Old habits still linger from the dead ball mindset. Managers love bunts, pitchers work fast, and people still remember when baseballs got soft, scuffed, and stayed in play way too long. Some fans think small ball is the only real baseball. Then Ruth steps in and swings upward, not just through the ball but through the idea of how to hit. He makes contact loud and in the air, not slapped on the ground. His swing has that built-in loft, and Yankee Stadium's right field porch rewards it. Pitchers can't pitch around him forever because the lineup behind him is stacked, so he gets strikes he can actually drive. That combination turns every mistake into a souvenir. He isn't gaming the park. The park is trying to survive him. The line you need is simple: 60 home runs in 154 games, leading the American League. To put this into perspective, most teams in that era didn't threaten that number as a group. His total lives on its own island. He isn't sharing the top, he's redefining where the top even is. The gap between Ruth and the field makes the feat feel less like a hot streak and more like a rule change with a human face. And yes, the lifestyle. He eats hot dogs between innings, parties like the season has no off days, then shows up and sends baseballs to the outer boroughs. It's ridiculous and somehow part of the charm. The thing is, he performs through it all. Reporters can't stop writing, and the country can't stop reading. That's how the myth forms. He doesn't just hit, he becomes folklore, the template for the power hitter in this sport. Here's the first rule of this club. If you're that far ahead of your time, the sport adjusts to you. After Ruth, the game moves toward fresh baseballs, cleaner contact, and big swings that stay in the air. His 60 doesn't follow new rules, it creates them. Dead ball thinking fades, and power becomes the headline, not the footnote. From myth-made power, we move to a quieter man who carried the loudest pressure a ball player can face, Roger Maris. What happens when you break a god's record and half the crowd boos you for it? You get 1961, the expansion year that stretched the schedule to 162 games and stretched patience even more. Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle turned the summer into a daily poll. Back pages tracked totals like stock tickers, and every at-bat felt like a verdict on who should carry the number. The stadium's soundtrack mixed cheers, groans, and a steady hum of debate. Then came the moving goalpost. Commissioner Ford Frick, a close friend of Babe Ruth, added a caveat that if Maris didn't reach 60 within 154 games, the mark would be treated differently. That stance read like a shield for Ruth's legacy. Fans liked the idea. Many thought the longer season handed Maris an edge, and they said it loudly. The thing is, that policy turned a chase into a referendum on what counts. Maris didn't swing like a cartoon slugger. He stayed compact, let the ball travel, and drove it hard to all fields. He wasn't a quote machine either, so the press filled in the blanks with doubt. That mix, line drive power and low gloss presence, fed a story that he was breaking a shrine with a wrench, not a hammer. As the count climbed, the cameras moved closer, and his swing tightened under the glare. Stress came with a cost you could see. Hair fell out. The late season slump arrived. Reporters shadowed him, and boos rang at home, which says a lot about the mood. He kept showing up, but the chase stopped feeling fun. To put this into perspective, we talk about numbers like they live on their own, but this number dragged a person with it. The last week summed it up. Mantle, hurt, stepped aside. Maris stood alone. On October 1st in a quiet Yankee Stadium, he hit number 61. The crowd reaction came in mixed tones. No hero's parade, just a slow trot and a modest nod. It fit the season. Huge achievement, muted frame. Context followed him like a shadow. Some said the ball had a little extra life in the expansion year. The debate never went away. The asterisk became cultural shorthand for fine print, even when no star marked the page. Meanwhile, the core story was a hard worker under cold lights, not a larger-than-life character with a smile built for headlines. That contrast became the lesson. 3 decades later, 61 stood without a qualifier. The game finally admitted that the pressure was the point, and the schedule was the setting, not the cheat code. The number held, and the scars told us why it mattered. From moral panic to moral chemistry, the stage was set for a summer sold as salvation. Mark McGwire. Can one swing erase a strike and reboot America's love for baseball? In 1998, Mark McGwire turned a nightly highlight into appointment viewing. TV cut in for his at-bats. Announcers spoke in countdowns. A summer of channel flipping became a summer of waiting for one swing. Ballparks sold out on road trips because everyone wanted the live version of the blast they saw yesterday. It felt like a reality show where the script was a number. The setup looked tailor-made. His frame drew eyes before the first pitch, those tree trunk forearms stretching his jersey like it was 2 sizes too small. In the locker sat an Andro bottle, a supplement that was legal and loud in all the wrong ways. The sport, still dragging the mood from the 1994 strike, needed a jolt, and Big Mac supplied it with a simple product: fly balls that did not come back. Under the hood, the swing was compact up top and outrageous at the finish. He kept a short lever path to the ball, then added extreme loft to get it airborne with intent. Miss up and in, and it was gone. Miss down and in, also gone. Busch Stadium gave him angles he could exploit, and a league with thin pitching depth fed him a steady diet of mistakes. To put this into perspective, his approach took any 2-0 fastball and turned it into a souvenir plan. Number 62 broke the old mark, and the scoreboard turned into a headline. Then the run kept going. 70 home runs meant a new target and a new business model. Jerseys moved. Attendance spiked. Broadcast led with his totals like they were weather reports. The thing is, the celebration and the lab talk arrived together. Home run rates climbed, and so did whispers about where the power came from. Fans cheered the show, and the numbers backed the interest. More people showed up. More balls left the yard. The paradox shaped the storyline. The cleaner the swing looked on screen, the messier the debate sounded off it. Years later, a single line would sum up the era's tension. At a hearing, he said, "I'm not here to talk about the past." That quote became the shorthand for an age that wanted joy without the questions. His body became evidence and entertainment at the same time. Slow-motion replays lingered on forearms and bat speed, the way car ads linger on engines. The spectacle was the point, and also the problem. It's safe to say 70 was both a miracle for fans and a mirror for what the league allowed at the time. The chase turned into a duet, same stage, different dance steps, and the crowd kept the beat with every count change. Sammy Sosa. 3 60-homer seasons, 1 hop skip, and a celebration you could set your watch to. That was the package. The ball left the bat, he popped the little hop, tapped the heart, and the crowd followed the script. In 1998, 1999, and 2001, the totals stacked up like a summer festival lineup, and the ticket was charisma as much as raw power. Every at-bat felt like a mini-show, and the show kept delivering. The setup started in 1998 when the race became the sport's main feed. He didn't just keep pace, he turned weeks into sprints. June 1998 was the loudest example. 20 home runs in a single month set the all-time record and told pitchers what the next few years would look like. The next seasons didn't slow down. He posted 63 in 1999 and 64 in 2001, so the number 60 stopped feeling like a mountaintop and more like a checkpoint he kept passing. There was tension threaded through all that noise. A corked bat game in 2003 stuck to his name like sap and made people question what else might be off. Then came hearings with the language controversy, where he seemed to step sideways just when clarity was wanted. The era's growing cloud only got thicker. Fans kept the cheers going, but the footnotes grew longer. His approach made the streaks make sense. The swing used violent torque with late bat speed, and the ball left at a high launch angle. When the timing clicked, he turned a week into a fireworks run. He lived on pitches he could lift and pull, but he could also ride mistakes to center. The result was clusters, the kind where a box score looked broken for days at a time. The line that still shocks is the consistency at cartoon levels: 66, 63, 64 in a 4-year span. To put this into perspective, most careers never sniff 60 once. He did versions of it 3 times. That reliability at the top end made the club look crowded even though it never was. The marketing followed the math. The hop became a logo without needing a trademark. Summer in Chicago turned into a highlight reel. Street vendors sold the vibe, and the ballpark leaned into the rhythm of the celebration. The thing is, the bigger the glow, the larger the shadow. That's the paradox. Historic output met a legacy filtered through suspicions and some self-inflicted PR misses. Historians parse the conditions: how the ball traveled, how training evolved, and what the era allowed, while fans still remember the sound off the bat. It's safe to say he made 60 feel casual, which is why it never should have been. If 60 was a party trick, the next act turned it into a physics experiment. Barry Bonds. At age 36, he didn't just pass 70. He changed how the duel between hitter and pitcher worked. In 2001, Barry Bonds turned every plate appearance into a math problem the other team could not solve. The stat line looked fake: 73 home runs, a .515 on-base percentage, and an .863 slugging percentage, with a .328 average on top. To put this into perspective, those rates meant even his outs felt like choices he made, not pitches he had to chase. The season lived under bright lights and darker headlines. Balco investigations and legal questions followed him everywhere, and the gear didn't soften the optics. The armored elbow guard sat like medieval cosplay, daring pitchers to come inside while reducing the cost of doing so. The thing is, the controversy never slowed the production. It only changed the tone of the conversation around it. Pitchers tried the simplest fix: stop pitching to him. He drew 120 walks, and a big slice were on purpose. That should have iced the power. It didn't. He waited out nibbling, tracked spin, and pounced on rare strikes. Miss by an inch and the ball went a long way. You could see staffs stretch their plans, only to watch a single hittable pitch undo 3 games of meetings. His swing was a study in efficiency. The path stayed short, the hands fired late, and the barrel lived in the zone longer than felt fair. That late acceleration created elite bat speed without a long, loopy move, so he could stay patient and still be on time. Paired with plate discipline that shrank the zone by will, the result was a target area that belonged to him, not the umpire. Even the park didn't help pitchers enough. Pacific Bell Park ran cool and heavy at night, with ocean air that killed carry. Yet the output stayed absurd. Splash hits into the cove became their own sideshow. But the bigger story was how often he beat air density that usually turns warning track power into a flyout. Across his career, 7 MVP awards formed the backdrop. In 2001, the best version of an already elite player met a permissive era. That overlap created a unique mix of awe and debate. Head-sized jokes filtered into bar talk, while Hall of Fame voters held the line. The record stands, and the plaque space stays open. 73 became the apex of suspicion and skill. It's a number too large to ignore and too loaded to celebrate cleanly. The box score says greatness. The footnotes say context. After that kind of scrutiny, the sport started looking for a hero who could carry the same swing without the extra paragraphs. Aaron Judge. A 6'7" right fielder turns launch angle into a redemption arc by making 450-foot drives feel routine and turning exit velocity into primetime. The size jokes write themselves, but the point is simple. The ball left his bat harder and at cleaner angles than anyone else, and the season became a scoreboard watch that felt earned, rather than hyped. In 2022, the chase lived in real time. Every swing came with a StatCast readout on the broadcast, and feeds tracked his pace daily. The framing leaned clean from day one. Analysts talked about batted ball quality, not whispers, and the league spotlight stayed on him for months without a tabloid spin. The number felt like a measurement, not a rumor. Comparisons to the previous era hovered over the year anyway. Fans argued about what the real record should be and whether league history needs tiers. The thing is, the debate powered interest but didn't slow the swings. He kept stacking totals while people argued over context, which is a very modern baseball experience. His profile explains why it worked. Elite exit velocity turned average contact into damage. He tightened strike zone command, cut chase, and punished mistakes in zone. Durability mattered most. He played 157 games and kept his mechanics intact from April through October. That is rare. His hot stretches did not need odd conditions. They needed plate appearances. 62 home runs in a league, throwing the hardest it ever has, is the headline. To put this into perspective, pitchers lived in the upper 90s, and relievers carried wipeout stuff across entire bullpens. He showed power can thrive without era baggage because the contact quality beat velocity with math you could see in each overlay. The ball talk still showed up. People dug into humidor rules and ball batches, and message boards ran with flight charts. His batted ball data cut through that noise. Hard hit rates, barrel counts, and spray patterns matched what your eyes saw. He didn't need a friendly ball when he was hitting it that far and that often. The payoff went beyond a line in the record book. He signed a $360 million deal to stay with the Yankees, became the public face of the team, and took the captain title. It's safe to say the year restored some trust that power can sell tickets without caveats. He faced more velocity and got more pitches in the zone than a certain record season, but the distance to the seats stayed the same. Different obstacles, same result. That's the mini payoff. 60 plus felt noble again, something you could cheer without checking footnotes. If a modern giant reclaimed the story, a catcher was about to redraw the silhouette. Cal Raleigh. A catcher hits 60 while doing 140 squats a night. How is that even possible? Start with the workload. Every game, Cal Raleigh drops into a crouch for pitch after pitch, blocks balls in the dirt, takes foul tips off the mask, and still has to gear up again in the late innings. That's the baseline. In 2025, he added a swing that launched baseballs at a pace no catcher had ever managed. The combination didn't just look rare, it reset the bar for what the position can deliver. The Mariners handed him the staff, and the city handed him the nickname. The big dumper became a rallying cry you could hear from the upper deck to the concession lines. Home games took on a steady joke with stakes vibe. Every time he drove one into the seats, the bit kept going, and the season got heavier. It's safe to say the persona and the production fed each other in a way that made the chase feel like a group project. Catcher wear and tear usually clips power. Fatigue studies spell it out. Squatting, receiving, and blocking drain the legs, and tired legs rob loft. Raleigh beat that math. He held posture late into games and into the season, which is how 0 and 0 counts became launch counts even after a 12-pitch frame behind the plate. Add in the framing focus and the constant pitch calling work, and 60 looks like a conditioning clinic more than a hot streak. His swing explains the carry. He found pull-side thunder that fit T-Mobile Park's alleys with a clean path through the zone. The loft window stayed tight, so mishits still carried. On warmer nights, the ball took the hint. On cooler ones, it still found the wall. Park factors in Seattle don't scream hitter's paradise, but his batted ball mix turned neutral air into a partner. Run prevention plus 60 home runs changes roster math. The WAR spike from a non-traditional slugger spot lets a front office buy defense elsewhere and still keep middle-of-the-order damage locked at catcher. To put this into perspective, historical comps at the position top out well short. Johnny Bench had thunder. Mike Piazza's bat lived in the heart of lineups for years. Neither touched 60. That contrast makes the feet land even harder. Modern pitching should have blunted him. Velocity climbed, scouting got sharper, and plans got colder. He stayed on heaters at the top and punished hangers that were supposed to be waste. The unicorn label fits because the inputs usually cancel the outputs at catcher. Here they added up. Raleigh didn't just join the club, he brought the gear bag and a shin guard throne and sat in it. The next name hasn't hit 60 yet, but he's been rewriting 2 jobs at once. We've covered the 7 members who made it into the club. Now let's talk about the 2 sluggers knocking on the door. Players who haven't crossed 60 yet, but carry the tools, the track record, and the hype to join this exclusive list. These aren't maybes. These are when not if scenarios, names that could add new chapters to this story as soon as next season. One rewrites the rulebook on what a player can be. The other rewrites the rulebook on what a single at-bat can deliver. Shohei Ohtani. 54 homers while also taking the mound. What happens when the 60 club meets a two-way outlier? In 2024, Shohei Ohtani put 50-plus on the board while coming off years where he also handled pitching at an elite level, and that balance rewired how teams think about value. The thing is, he didn't need a friendly park or a quirky schedule. He needed swings and time, because the tool set already lives at the edge of what hitters bring to the box. Headlines tried to steer the story. An interpreter scandal popped up and wouldn't leave, and a $700 million deal put a price tag on every at-bat. That contract, with its long runway and deferred pieces, made his stat line feel like a market report. The scrutiny grew with each home run. People watched the production and the payments like they were the same chart. His offensive kit explains why the conversation stayed centered on outcomes. He brings elite bat speed that holds up against velocity and spin. He drives the ball to all fields without selling out for the pull side. Plate discipline keeps improving. He tracks pitches longer, spits on the soft stuff off the black, and punishes strikes in zone. To put this into perspective, he turns mistake pitches into damage and good pitches into line drives that live in the gaps until the weather carries them out. Think of the 50-50 idea in a different way. You're looking at 50 home run power paired with ace-caliber pitching in other seasons, not the old steals and homers mix. That split changes how teams build around him. He anchors two rosters at once, the lineup and the rotation in years he pitches. It's a roster hack backed by results, not a novelty act. Global reach is part of the math too. He shapes the Japan to MLB pipeline, pulling in fans across time zones and feeding highlight reels to markets that rarely cared before. His marketing footprint stretches past the sport, which turns a 60-homer push into a global broadcast. It's safe to say a chase with him moves merchandise and midnight viewing habits in the same week. The calculus to hit 60 is blunt. Health sets the ceiling. If he stays on the field, plate appearances do the lifting. Raw power is already there, and contact quality clears the bar. Give him enough reps, and the number turns into a pacing problem rather than a strength test. He also carries the ethical arc the sport craves. Post-steroid era standards, cross-cultural scrutiny, and a clean hero template scaled worldwide. The appeal is that the story reads as skill and work, not chemistry. The mini payoff is simple. He sits on the doorstep by design, with the most complete path to 60 that doesn't ask for footnotes. Another modern masher lives at the extremes. Outcome roulette with fireworks. Kyle Schwarber. If the ball leaves the bat, it may leave the planet. If not, bring a glove for the strikeout souvenir. That's the Kyle Schwarber promise. Every plate appearance boils down to the loudest coin flip in the park. Home run, walk, or strikeout, all lit up in neon. In Philadelphia, that style doesn't just play. It echoes. Citizens Bank Park turns the sound up on every swing, and his profile fits the stage like it was built for him. He lives in the three true outcomes. The strikeout rate sits high, the walk rate stays above average, and the power is the point. To put this into perspective, pitchers know the zone will shrink because he won't chase far off it, so when they miss in, the ball flies. The tension sits right there. 200 strikeouts on the ledger next to 45 to 50 home runs. Can this scale to 60 with today's pitching? The answer starts with how his swing works and where he plays. The mechanics look simple, but the plan is not. He takes an uppercut path that creates lift without a long move. The barrel enters early, lives in the zone, and exits on a pull line. It looks reckless because the follow-through is violent, but the choices are selective. He hunts the heater up and punishes it. Miss middle in, and the ball leaves fast. Miss up and away, and he still gets it out front. That's how a pull-heavy hitter turns a mistake into a guaranteed trot. Philly adds fuel. Citizens Bank Park grades out as hitter-friendly, and his batted ball mix matches those dimensions. Warm summer air gives the carry a little help, and the short porch in right center keeps mish hits honest. The fan base treats each at-bat like overtime. You can feel the coin flip in the seats. That vibe fits the launch-heavy era, where a strikeout is the tax and the homer is the payout. Modern context keeps the stakes high. Velocity is up across the league, so he sees upper 90s and elite spin nightly. That raises the strikeouts but also raises the penalty for a miss. Shift restrictions help a lefty with his profile, turning a few grounders and liners into clean singles and keeping him at the plate for an extra swing each week. The path to 60 isn't mystical. Health first. Then a handful more barrels, a month of hot air, and a couple of road trips to forgiving parks. Maintain his home run to fly ball rate, and the math gets close. The ethical contrast is clear too. Loud power without a steroid cloud. What you see is the volatility tax you pay up front. It's safe to say he's the chaos candidate. If 60 returns at full volume, it might sound like this. We've toured the club and the near misses, now the pattern becomes clear. The number never moves, but the environment never stops changing. That's why a 60-homer season reads differently each time it happens. The list looks tidy, the timeline is not. We just watched 3 eras stack on top of each other. Myth and fan pressure with Ruth and Maris, chemistry and scandal with McGwire, Sosa and Bonds, and modern legitimacy and context with Judge and Raleigh. Same milestone, different rulebooks, both written and unwritten. Fans want a clean list. History hands over a messy timeline with moving standards. Dead ball habits faded. Then chemistry got loud. Then StatCast arrived with receipts. The thing is, the standards people use to judge these seasons keep shifting with the sport's tools. What counted as fair in one decade looks odd in the next, which is why debates live longer than the chases. Start with speed. Pitching velocity has crept up year after year, turning 100 miles per hour from a novelty into a schedule item. That tilt makes contact harder and punishes timing mistakes, yet power still shows up. Then there's the ball. Construction tweaks over the years changed carry in ways hitters and pitchers could feel even before anyone ran the numbers. Add humidors, which normalize storage and nudge flight in certain parks, and you get a league where the same swing travels differently city to city. Parks matter too. Dimensions, altitude, and weather shape the flight path. A short porch can reward a pulled mistake, while heavy air can bury a barrel at the warning track. Humidor policies layer on top of that, creating pockets of seasons where totals drift up or down for reasons outside a hitter's training plan. To put this into perspective, 2 identical swings in 2 parks can produce a trot or a long out. Voters and viewers act like scorekeepers of ethics and context. They filter the same number through different lenses: who was pitching, what the ball did, how the league managed its gear, and how a player was perceived in real time. Media built those lenses. We went from newspaper myths to nightly TV cut-ins, to dashboards that show exit velocity and launch angle on the broadcast. The story moved from vibes to measurements without losing the arguments. So a club with only 7 members doesn't sit still. It reflects each era's ethics and engineering. Ohtani and Schwarber sit as live tests. If they cross the line, the story tilts again towards skill, variance, and health math more than suspicion. The mini payoff is clear. 60 isn't just math. It's a mirror for what baseball believes about itself. And that belief changes with the tools and the mood. Close the book with the one idea that ties the century together. The 60 Club works like a time capsule, each season stamped with the era's physics and ethics. To put this into perspective, Babe Ruth's 1927 line paired 60 homers with 137 walks in a league, averaging 0.8 homers per game, while Aaron Judge's 2022 run hit 62 with 89 walks in a 1.0 home runs per game environment. Same number, different ecosystem. Tell us which 60 you trust most, which one you'd put on a plaque, and who gets in next, Ohtani or Schwarber. It's safe to say this record is nearly impossible to break, but the next swing could rewrite its meaning again and sooner than you think. Like and subscribe for 1,000 years of luck.